Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Garabo Sithole and I'm a student from the University of Vet studying Bachelor of Accounting Science. Thank you so much to all the returning subscribers, and if you are new, welcome to the gang. We are the class of asymptotes, the untouchables. So in today's video guys, we are going to continue with market structure. If you haven't watched the other videos, please find some time to go and watch them. Go through the perfect markets, also go through all the other videos that we have. It's going to help a lot. So let's get right into the work of today's video. So we are focusing on monopoly. So a monopoly is basically a market structure where there's only one seller and many buyers. So there's only one supplier of a unique product and there are many other buyers. For the fact that the product is unique, it means that there are no perfect substitutes. So there are other substitutes, but they are not perfect substitutes, right? And the supplier is actually the price setter because they sell a unique product and they are the only seller in this market. So they will be able to set the product. So unlike in a perfect market, the demand curve of this market structure is actually downward sloping, right? So this is the demand curve where the demand is equal to the average revenue, and the marginal revenue is actually below the demand curve. And that is because, remember the definition of what marginal revenue is. It is the additional revenue that you earn as you sell an extra unit. So because you have a downward sloping demand curve, it is actually telling you that you are following the law of demand. So in order to sell like large amounts of quantity, you have to keep reducing your price. And as you reduce your price to sell an additional unit, it means that the marginal unit, the additional revenue that you will earn as compared to before will actually start decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. If, for example, you were making 100 Rand from your first sale, in order to sell more, you reduce your price to 70 Rand, right? Do you see that your marginal revenue is going to be less? And you reduce your price to 60 Rand, the marginal revenue will also decrease as you keep on decreasing your price to sell an additional units. Unlike in the perfect market where the marginal revenue is equal to the average revenue, equal to the demand. And that is because firms in the perfect market take the price exactly as it is, meaning they do not have to reduce their price to sell an additional units. So whatever price they get will actually be their marginal revenue, and it will be their average revenue and their demand curve, right? Unlike in this case where it's a downward sloping demand curve, in order to sell more units, you have to keep on reducing your price. Hence, the additional revenue that you earn will also start decreasing, right? So let us just look at how to determine your economic profits, right? So firms always produce where the MR, always produce the quantity where the MC is equal to the MR, regardless of the market structure, be it you are a perfect competitor, you are a monopolistic competitor, or you are a monopoly, you always produce where the MR is equal to the MC, right? So to determine your economic profits or economic loss, the first starting point is for you to draw a dot where the MC touches the MR, and then you go and touch your MC, then you draw a line right here, right? But remember, you still have to touch the demand curve because that's what tells you the price. So go to the demand curve and touch it right here. Go to the y-axis, find your quantity which aligns with the point where the MR is equal to the MC. So basically you'll produce at this quantity, and this whole part will be your economic profits because the AR is above the AC at the profit maximizing position. So basically the monopoly that I just drew right now, where you are producing at this price, right? Remember, you touch the demand curve in order to know what the price is. So this monopoly that I just drew right here is actually called a single price monopoly. Single price monopoly, and that is because they never set the price where the where the MC is equal to the demand curve. They never set the price here, but they rather set the price at a higher price because remember, they are taking advantage of the consumers. So in the perfect market, the price would be set where the MC is equal to the demand curve. Remember, the MC is equal to the supply curve. So where the supply meets the demand, which is this point, that is where the perfect market would produce. However, in this single price monopoly, they never produce where the supply curve, which is the MC, is equal to the demand curve. They always produce at a higher price. They always use the price of the demand curve, right? So do you guys see that we have economic profit here, but there's a small triangle formed here, and we call that deadweight loss. And whenever you have deadweight loss, you are inefficient. So when they talk of markets that are inefficient, all markets that have deadweight loss are inefficient, right? So this is my deadweight loss. There's another triangle formed right here, right? So that is your consumer surplus. So this whole thing is your consumer surplus. Consumer surplus. For those of you who do not understand consumer surplus, I am going to use the perfect market to explain what consumer surplus is, right? But that's going to be in another video. So please be on the watch out for the video. And then you have producer surplus right here, right? So this is producer surplus. Right? So this is what happens in a single price monopoly. You are inefficient because you have deadweight loss. You are not producing where the supply meets the demand. You are rather producing at a higher price, but still the same quantity where the MC is equal to the MR, the profit maximizing condition. You will gain economic profits. They will be consumer surplus and they will be producer surplus, right? So remember, there are two types of monopolies, right? There's a single price monopoly and there's a price discriminator monopoly. So with the price discriminator monopoly, you need to understand the theory of consumer surplus. What is consumer surplus? I'm going to go in depth with consumer surplus in another video, but basically consumer surplus is basically you looking at your demand curve. So the first consumer was willing to pay this high price, but they ended up paying this low price. Okay, you know what? Let's use a small sketch to understand this consumer surplus thing, because it is very important when it comes to your price discriminator monopoly. So let us say you have a perfect market, right, where the demand equals the supply. So this is the demand, this is the supply. So there you are, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity, right? So do you see that the first consumer was willing to pay this high price, right, for this amount of quantity, but the market made them pay a lower price, EQ, right? So they gained. There was a surplus. When we compare what they were willing to pay and what they actually paid, the difference between those two things is actually what we call your consumer surplus. You were willing to pay 100 Rand, but the market made you pay 60 Rand. So the 40 Rand is your consumer surplus. The second one was willing to pay 40 Rand, but the market made them pay 20 Rand. So their consumer surplus will be the difference between the market price and what they were willing to pay. The list goes on and it goes on and it goes on until you get here. Right, so we call this whole area consumer surplus. The same as this. The lowest price that the supplier was willing to take is this, right? But they ended up getting a higher price. They were willing to sell at this price for this quantity, but they ended up selling at a higher price. The list goes and goes and goes until you touch where they are meeting. So we call this producer surplus. Right? There is no deadweight loss. There's consumer surplus, is producer surplus. This whole area is called total surplus, right? Okay, so now that you understand what consumer surplus is, let us now come back to our discussion of a monopoly, right? So remember that a monopoly is like a market where there's only one seller, right? So let's look at what a price discriminator monopoly does. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Like, you know what? Let me turn off the lighting so I can see what's happening. Okay. Okay, so what a price discriminator monopoly does is that it goes to the demand curve and it says, okay, you are willing to pay at a higher price of 100 Rand. That's what I'm going to sell at. Next consumer, you are willing to pay at this price of 70 Rand. That's what I'm going to sell the goods at that quantity. So the next one, you're willing to pay at this price. So I'm going to sell at that price. Whatever price you are willing to pay for is what they sell the goods for. Right? So if you're willing to pay a high price of 100 Rand for 1 unit, they are going to sell that 1 unit to you for 100 Rand, regardless of what the market price is, right? So what is happening here is that, remember, consumer surplus is the surplus you get when you were willing to pay more, but you ended up paying less. So in this case, you are actually paying the maximum you were initially willing to pay, meaning you don't have any consumer surplus, but rather the consumer surplus you had is transferred to the producer surplus. I will repeat. The price discriminator monopoly basically sets the price at the demand curve. So this is what you're willing to pay initially before the market decided to set a lower price. That's what we are going to sell at. Second consumer, you are willing to pay at this price, but the market wanted you to pay at this price. We are going to sell at this price, right? The list goes on. You're willing to pay at this price. We sell at this price. Sell at this price until such a time where we reach where the MC is equal to the demand curve, because remember the MC is actually our supply curve, right? So this whole area which was consumer surplus will now become producer surplus, as well as this whole area which was initially producer surplus, it will also still be producer surplus. But because we are actually at this point, there is no deadweight loss. So there's only producer surplus, no deadweight loss, no consumer surplus, right? So that's basically the important thing you need to know about a price discriminator monopoly. It is efficient, unlike a single price monopoly, because there's deadweight loss when there's a single price monopoly, because it never produces where the MC is equal to the demand curve. However, on this one, we will keep setting this high price, eat away the consumer surplus, until we get to this point where the supply is equal to the demand. And then because there's no deadweight loss, you are efficient. This market, this type of monopoly is as efficient as the perfect market is. Because what does it mean to be efficient? It means there are no surpluses, there are no shortages. Shortages and surpluses actually cause the deadweight loss. If you guys check here, consumers were actually demanding this quantity 1, but you were supplying quantity Q, right? So this whole area from here to here is actually a shortage, hence you had deadweight loss. So when they say that a market is inefficient or it has like deadweight loss, they are just telling you that it has surpluses and it has shortages. So yeah, let us just talk about entry for a moment. So in a monopoly, the entry is completely blocked, and it can be blocked by 2 factors, legal or natural, right? Barriers to entry. So the natural barriers to entry are economic reasons, such as economies of scale, whereas the legal barriers to entry are things like copyrights, patents, and licenses, right? So when a monopoly is blocked, or when the market is blocked by legal barriers, the monopoly that is formed is called artificial, right? So an artificial monopoly is formed when the entry is blocked by legal things, right? And when it's blocked by economic things such as economies of scale, it is actually called a natural monopoly, right? So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.